Hello, everybody. Welcome to Global Women Talk. I am so glad we're getting together, ladies. We got Mary Pagano from Hera Media Group. She'll tell you about who she is, but that's really her thing, so she's gonna have to tell you. And then we got Susan Ham, aka the Love Hacker, but so many more things. And we got Shara Marotra, who has a magazine and entrepreneurship for women. There's so many of us. Everybody knows who we are, but I guess we can talk about a little bit of who we are. But I think it's, the slap that like the whole world knew about and traveled the world, the famous Will Smith incident at the Oscars. I wanted to have this conversation with all of us because I think it really boils down to entitlement and what it really means. And, many celebrities, they feel entitled. And so it's something that somebody who is well known and in the public eye more acceptable versus somebody who's not known? And do they feel that the rules do not apply to them? And so, there's been all kinds of conversations. I'm curious to see from your perspectives, because of course I'll tell you mine from within the industry. There is like the pro Will Smith, the anti Will Smith. What does it mean? Yes, he was standing up for his woman, but then at the same time, he shouldn't have slapped. And there's so many things going on at the same time. And of course, the punishment taking away the membership at the academy and all of that. So I'm dying to hear your perspective because, again, I feel that entitlement is something that not just celebrities have, but many people hide their insecurities behind it or feel like it's okay to do certain things. And so I think this is a very broad subject. It is a slap that triggers, I think, so many buttons on all of us. So I'm wondering what buttons beyond the slap Will Smith pushed on you that you're like, I gotta talk about this thing, because clearly we are here talking about this thing. So ladies, I'll let you lead. Mary, you go first.
I knew she was going to call on me.
Of course.
Yeah, I actually have two hot buttons here. So believe it or not, I still think that the joke was out of line. And just from the perspective of it was bullying, it wasn't a nice joke. Whenever you're telling jokes that's about a race or a gender or making fun of people, it just doesn't work. It's mean, people think that laughing at somebody is funny, but it's not. You can laugh about how people behave, right? But you don't have to attack the person. And, we all have certain behaviors that we do, like, we might respond if a kid's in a screaming car and you're like trying to cope with it, right? I mean, there's all these behaviors that people typically do. That's okay to joke about because everybody can relate to it. But when you make fun of a woman because her head is shaved, and we all know that, and I actually didn't know that she had alopecia or whatever. So that to me, it didn't even matter that was her issue. Just the fact that he's making fun of her haircut, I thought was just not very nice to begin with. And then when Will, when Will jumped out of his chair and, smacked the guy, I immediately thought, oh, I thought you were bigger than this, why, because that gets you nowhere. You just took yourself down a few notches. I lost respect for him. But he's apologized. But I would have figured that he had better, what's the word I'm looking for? Not patience, but anger management, or
Tolerance.
Yes. So those are my two thoughts.
Interesting. Okay. I have a rebuttal to that, but when I hear everybody's viewpoint.
No, you can rebuttal me now.
No. I want to hear everybody's viewpoint because it's like
I think Susan is dying. I think Susan is dying to say something.
Susan is dying to say something. So I want to hear what Susan has to say, because maybe her and I are probably going to be thinking the same thing. Let's see. I'm curious.
I'm still confused over that whole thing. I'm so numb with all the stupidity of the news. But you're right. My first reaction, Mary, like you, was I don't like jokes that make fun of somebody's problem that it's a health issue, right? You got to watch what you say. But at the same time, though, being always being watched by in social media, because I'm out there talking and I'm very direct and I'm very bold with what I say, I am also very aware that I need to be prepared for whatever backlash I have, right? So there's a responsibility, or there is a reality that when you put yourself out there, you also have to empower yourself to respond to whatever and not let it affect you in a way. And I really do think that as I watched back, her response to it was not as serious as Will reacting to it. So this was his thing, but I also know that there's always so many sides to a story. And this is where media is the worst, because they don't know all sides, or they do know, or they don't care to investigate, and they just spew out all these stories. It's just for the sake of power and influence, and not necessarily good influence. So to me, the media is always the wrongdoers here, because they're not illustrating the situation in a way that really helps the population think critically, right? There are so many more layers to Will Smith and his wife Jada. They have gone through their own stuff. And what I've seen is like, she's as much as a culprit in affecting that matter as he is. So you know what? But it's really none of our business, but it is our business because Jada puts it out there in her red table, right? So we get what we dish. If somebody says to me, and I'm out there talking all the time, well, not lately because, I'd rather stay quiet, but there was a time when I was out there every day. And if anybody were to come and make fun of me or whatever, I have to respond in a way that, hey, it's not me, whatever. If I put myself out there, I have to be prepared. That's just what reality is. So that's what we have to teach people, the empowerment to critically think on their own. And that's all I have to say.
That's good. That's good.
That's a very good response. Very good. Sharu, I want to hear what you got to say, because I got my bullet points here. Wait till I go into it.
This is such an important topic. And when it happened and I read about it and watched that video, the word responsibility, which Suzanne said, the first thought came in my mind, because all these actors and all these achievers, they are responsible to show the right way. They are setting examples in front of others. So first thing came in my mind, they are showing that they have the liberty to react, whether he made a joke and how Will Smith reacted. Both acts were wrong. And because they're setting a bad example that people can do anything. You are at certain position in your life and you are setting some example in front of the whole audience, which consists of all ages. So when people see that people whom they admire, they can do that. For me, it happens. It can spread out. The way they have reacted, making fun of because of some health issue, is definitely not acceptable. And the way Will Smith reacted, definitely not acceptable. This shows definitely there are other ways. I mean, he could have spoken something, he could have said later. But yeah, the moment of action happens and you react. But there comes your personality and you are such an achiever. So nobody will accept it and talk positively. And yes, media has to be responsible and talk in such a way that this is not repeated again by others. And everybody has to be in control of themselves, how you are reacting to the situation. Because you cannot use aggression on stage in front of whole world. Yeah. So yes, I will strongly criticize it, and it has to be talking about in such a way that it is not repeated again.
Yeah. Very, very nice response. Very nice response. I agree with all three of you in many aspects. I would have to say a couple of things. First of all, what comedians do is they make fun of other people. I mean, there is such things like roasting, if Ricky Gervais was on stage, I mean, they wanted to demote him, during the Golden Globes because he was literally making fun of all the celebrities and how self-important they are and how their issues are so much more important than others. There were other jokes there that they were a lot heavier than really the way I perceived it. He was literally complimenting Jada Pinkett on looking fine with a shaved head and being a badass, because G.I. Jane, I mean, Demi Moore, she shaved her head, she looked amazing. So I don't think that that joke was, I didn't think it was bad. I actually thought it was a compliment. And you know, it was kind of like a roasting. And I mean, what would you do then to Regina Hall, who goes on and brings a man and starts patting them down? And by the way, I don't know if you guys caught it, but she brought up Will Smith's open marriage with Jada, where basically she said to the crowd, "Oh, you know, well, let me pat, you know, touch your butt. I'm sure, you know, Jada, you don't mind, right?" I mean, that was a lot more offensive to me, because it was bringing up something that is very well known in the industry, that they do have an open marriage and she does sleep with other people. And so there was that whole thing that I just didn't, you know, that's why I was like, well, that's not really a bad joke. And if you're hiring comedians, that's really what they're going to do. They're going to roast people. So it's like, if you can't develop a thick skin on that, then, you know, don't come to an award show. I mean, that was kind of like my attitude for it. I do understand that he was trying to defend his woman. And so there were like these comments about him wanting to defend Jada's honor. But at the next thing, a lot of women, I don't know if you saw it on social media, were triggered because by the slap. And I'll tell you why, because we all know when women go into abusive relationships where there is a man who in the surface looks all nice and lovable and a good person, and by perception, oh, he or she's so great. And then in private moments, they're actually abusers. And so a lot of women got triggered saying, if somebody snaps so easily with this, I'm afraid to see what's happening behind closed doors. And so there was that other conversation that I was like, wow, I didn't think of it this way, but it did trigger a lot of people. And then, you know, again, you want to defend your woman's reputation, if you call it, or whatever. There is a classier way that you could go about it. Like Sharo said, if you're a responsible celebrity, you could, during the commercial break, ask to see the producers. You're the biggest star in the world, or one of the biggest, and talk to the producers and say, listen, I really do not like what just happened. I demand that Chris Rock comes back on stage and apologizes to my wife. Or he could have gone himself back on stage and have a chat with Chris Rock and say, this is not okay. Think about the perspective of how Jada may feel. But then if that would have happened, then everybody would have had to apologize, like every single comedian, because I mean, they took stabs at another movie like nobody saw. I think it was like the Aaron Sorkin movie that they go, oh yeah, here is a tape. What do you want to do? Oh yeah, you're right. Nobody has seen this movie. Like they did a lot of like offensive stuff. So it's the way that he handled it, I think, that was the worst thing. I actually thought Chris Rock was a total gentleman. He handled it in an amazing way because he didn't comment. He took it. He refused to comment all the way. And so I think Will Smith, what he did wrong was the tears, the crying. And so there's this other thing. Here he is on stage crying all these tears. I'm sorry, you know, I'm acting this way. But then an hour later, he's at the Vanity Fair party holding his Oscar and partying like there's no tomorrow. So if you really are, you know, remorseful of what just happened, can you maybe not take a moment and skip the party and go celebrate quietly your Oscar win with your family and think about the ramifications of what just happened? So there was that other thing that I just like, here's like three main mistakes beyond the slap. You cry on camera for about 5 minutes and then you go off and party like, yeah, like with the Oscar. And how does that show that you're really remorseful? 2, you handle it in a classless way because again, there's children watching. What is that going to teach to the audience when you think it's okay to go and slap another person because of that? And then 3, this whole talk about inclusion, and we've gone so far now with showing not the stereotyping of certain races, he's taking all that back 100 years. Because if there is anything to be said, when they were saying, oh, well, you know, Black men are wife beaters or whatever, or like violent, now he is expressing that. And all the work that got done by the previous incredible people like the Sidney Poitiers of the world and the Zenz Washington and all of that, it's going down the toilet. So that's my thought on it. I was disappointed. Do they have to take away the Oscar from him? I don't think so, because I mean, that is a performance and he's well deserved. I think he totally deserved that win. But I just don't think the way this was handled from a PR perspective, from what he was advised by the publicist, but all of that was like wrong. And I'm thinking again, the entitlement of like, yeah, I won an Oscar, let me go party, let me just go cry on camera and just act like it's nobody's business and write a statement. He didn't even apologize to Chris Rock. I don't know if you saw that. And so that was just like all these things that I got coming in my mind as somebody who's in the business, you know, and I couldn't stand Chris Rock before that. Like I thought he would, like he goes there, you know, he's really offensive. But in this case, I didn't even think, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, obviously you ladies found the joke offensive. I didn't find it offensive. I thought,
Yeah.
wow, you're telling me my wife looks hot with that shaved head. I don't know. That's what
you know,
I thought.
I do think that sometimes comedians spend too much time making fun of particular people. And it was kind of like Don Rickles. I never liked Don Rickles. I don't like Ricky Gervais most of the time. Sometimes I do, but when they start attacking people, I get a little bothered by it. It kind of turns my stomach a bit. But there's a lot of comedians who are really funny and they do a great job talking about situations. You don't have to attack. And I think it's, you know, for maybe some people it's funny too, but when it's you, you know, or you fall in that classic category, it doesn't feel so nice. So I think that's just my personal perspective. But I am also kind of wondered if there was maybe just a little bit of bad blood between Chris Rock and Will beforehand. I mean, you know, for him to say that seems like not big enough for him to jump up out of a seat.
I don't think that they had any, from what I've read, that they didn't have any issues. But I mean, yes, Chris Rock said something and it might be mean to people that struggle with that illness, or that disorder, but it's not, that's probably 5% of what really went wrong that night, you know, because I think what it really clearly shows is how unhappy Will Smith is with his marriage, you know, from the love hacker to the world, because that's the only thing. And Will Smith, we've always known he's a very private and very proud person, right?
Yeah.
So the way she wants to live in that marriage and the way she wants that marriage to be is not in alignment with what he truly wants in his heart. But he's sort of the victim, but it doesn't excuse what he did, but it explains that he's really unhappy with his life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and whether he's standing up for his wife, I don't even think he was. I think he was just reacting to his own severe unhappiness.
Yep.
Period.
You called it. I really think that's what it was. I really think that it was a trigger, almost like a delayed trigger to the jokes before about the open marriage and everything. And he just felt like, you know, like Denzel said it, in the moment when you're like your greatest moments of triumph, that's when the devil comes knocking. And I think something twisted, because he's known to be the nicest person. You know, I've met him. He's kind. He is just a family man, you know. So it was a very, very like unlikely way that he would be reacting. But I just think maybe that, like you said, because of all the triggers and the past, the private life situations, that's probably why he also didn't know how to handle the aftermath also, like, you know, this whole thing. I think that's got to be one of those things. And, you know, I mean, Mary, you're gonna hate me for this, but I
No,
love Gervais. I don't know why. I love the cynical. I literally love sarcastic and cynical
Yeah.
humor. Maybe because I'm Italian. Again, it's like global women talk, and it's like the cultural thing. We're used to this kind of humor. Like the Brits' humor tends to be very sarcastic and very like, right?
Yeah.
And I love that humor. Like even if it was, I would have like it literally. And again, it's a personal reaction, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
this was being said about me in that moment, I actually would have laughed. I would have like stood up and say, thank you for the compliment. Like, I'm like, oh, I've always insecure about having a shaved head, now like, thank you. Like, I feel like I'm rocking it. I probably would have not reacted that way. But then again,
Yeah, I agree. I
like,
agree with you. Like, yeah. And then I will get that point which Suzanne said, that humor, maybe that time he said, but I think he was taking it as his personal show. Roasting happens in all such shows, right? People go to extreme when they are having their personal shows of their own, they're talking to their audience and they are making fun of others. But I think what he missed, that he forgot that this is not his own show. This is a show which is for everybody, and it is celebration time. It is not making fun and going to extreme. So I agree that, yeah, we enjoy such fun, we enjoy such roasting at times, but then we have to see who is the audience and where you are doing that. So I think he missed that point that time.
and you know what? I agree the fact that what Susan said, the media exploitation is beyond, because I feel sorry for all the people who won those Oscars. I mean, the
Yeah.
first LGBT
Mhm.
Latinx African American woman who gets an Oscar, and then, a woman director and a woman screenwriter, right? There was so many wins for women in our community that like they haven't been there in a while. And nobody talked about it. Like everybody completely forgot, like even who won. All they remember is
The
the
slap.
slap, you know? And
Yeah.
it kind of goes to say how twisted we are a little bit like a society, because I mean, I think deep down we're kind of like all voyeurs. And I mean, hey, I said, let's talk about it. So like, I'm like the perfect example. Like, I'm like, wait, but I thought it was like more about entitlement really, but still it's something that it's a current event and we had to bring it up, but
So is it really entitlement, or is it isn't, well, is it entitlement? Or I think the biggest problem was, for the first time, and this, we all struggle with this one, for the first time, Will Smith was vulnerable.
Yes, I strongly agree with this.
Reeling back from vulnerability when you're that ultra proud, he's living his worst nightmare now. You cannot turn that around. So instead of like, the media just wants to torture everybody and torture Will. And I think as people watching what's going on, and what we learn from this is, number one, work on your own happiness, and if he's not happy, get himself a coach and get happy, or therapy, whatever it is, or read Woman Lines, or join Hera, whatever, do something really, but seriously, this whole thing was all driven by one moment of vulnerability that he has never shown.
yeah.
And maybe he is used to all those accolades, all those praises, and he got an Oscar that day. He was not able to accept that criticism, that joke, that how can anybody do this? And here comes the role and duty of entitlement. Maybe he's having that personality that he's not ready to take criticism. So yeah, he reacted, and we have to talk about it, that you cannot show this on stage. You have to be in control.
Yeah. He definitely snapped.
Oh,
He definitely snapped.
Well, I'm curious whether she should have done something after that, to stand by her husband. And she was very quiet. I mean, unless I missed something, but she, beyond speaking about the alopecia later, which, it's not cancer. I mean, I understand that it's a big thing. And I heard from a client of mine that when you're African American, your hair is your pride and all of that. But hey, Wakanda forever, right? I mean, you see like all these badass warrior women in Black Panther who have a shaved head, but I wonder if she should have said something, and I think she was a little bit quiet, like a little bit too quiet, in my opinion, as her husband was going down. And that I didn't like that much either, because he was still going down for her. If we think about it, his career was fizzling in front of his eyes for her.
Yeah.
Well, check this out. I don't think she thinks he did it for her.
You don't?
Why? Why do you think that?
I think that she thinks that he got triggered because of his, I think she's more switched on than anybody else, right? He wasn't really sticking up for her because he didn't react right away. There was a delay.
Yeah, there was a delay.
There was a delay. And so I think it's because she knows how unhappy he has been. I mean, they know what's going on behind closed doors, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think in her mind, yes, it looked like he was standing up for her, but I don't think she really thought that. I think she was actually disgusted with his response, with his reaction, embarrassed. That's how I saw it when I saw her face throughout the whole time. She didn't once support him.
Maybe that's why she's quiet. She's not saying anything because
No.
she's thinking some different way and she's not supporting that reaction.
It just didn't look like the body language or face of somebody that was supporting somebody else's action. That's how I got it. So I think she knew that he got triggered for other reasons. She knew it was a trigger, right? And it just so happened that was the moment where it was appropriate for the vulnerability to come out. But it just shows how, I mean, the one thing that I think the world can learn by this, and this is the only thing that could turn a really bad situation into a gift, is that he's showing us that everybody's human and that it's okay to be unhappy and don't be ashamed of it, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's willing to take whatever ramifications is thrown his way, which is good. I mean, that's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
That's what
But
he
they
needs-
need some alignment in how they see their life and how they live together, because they're obviously two people that don't share the same values.
Right.
I love that. That's a great takeaway and a lesson, I think, from this. And I also think that fame and power and wealth is not going to hide the skeletons in the closet. On the contrary, when something like this happens, it's going to make it even more obvious and more prominent than ever. And unfortunately, when you are a celebrity, everybody lives in your living room and in your bedroom. So it's kind of like that's got to be hard, because you can address certain things privately, but when this thing explode in your face, so many issues, and then the ramifications where your own community turns against you, both from the show business, arts
Yep.
community, then the people of color turn against you because they feel that obviously all the steps forward, you're not representing all the progress that has been made. So that becomes as well. The women are getting triggered because it's bringing abuse. Look at how much being in the public eye, how much it can create in terms of like all the issues that come to the surface of everybody. It's interesting to me. It's a great responsibility, I think. And people
Yeah.
need to understand that it's
I agree.
it's a great responsibility.
It is. It is. You're responsible. I mean, because everybody looks up to you and everybody's counting on you. So, and there is no privacy, none. I mean, you couldn't even go to the grocery store without being, tagged 100 times. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's overwhelming. But
Yeah.
I feel bad that he was triggered, that he snapped like that. Really, I did. Now, if I was his wife sitting next to him, what would I have done? I think, would I try to grab him like, where are you going? Like, maybe grab him and start dancing or something. I don't know, but
That's a good way. Yeah.
I don't think I don't think she realized where he was going. I think it was such a shocker for everybody because it's outside of his norm.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
people thought it was a joke. Like at the beginning, when they saw him walk towards, they thought that he was gonna make something funny. You know, it was like part of the sketch or the routine, and then it was just. I mean, I really believe that. Yes, I mean, maybe entitlement is the wrong title for this show, but you know, it's more like about, you know, when your private issues, you know, become public to the public eye because you are an opinion leader or you are a leader of industry, whatever that industry is. Um, everybody makes a mistake. It's human, just like Susan said. But how can you then? People are not going to forget it. You can't turn back the time, but how can you turn this around to use that to inspire and educate people or just, you know, learn something from it? And I'm curious to see how that's going to develop. What do you think,
Very true.
ladies? Like
But
beyond,
Very true.
violence was never good. Violence was never good. And that's what it was. When he smacked him, that was violence.
And it will be in history forever. You know, this is Will Smith. Till before this incident was Will Smith in a different way, but after this incident, it will be forever recorded that something has happened which has just changed the image so fast. So I agree with Alexia that yeah, things can be done. He can be a better person instead of not recognizing what happened. I think he can set an example to talk about it and then tell that this was wrong, and then how he has improved upon it.
Yeah.
So maybe certain things, if he takes care of and he is not forgetting it forever and he's never talking about it forever, he should be talking about it and he should be saying that that was wrong, accept it in front of everybody
Yep.
over the time, repeatedly, so that
Right.
people get back to his original image. And human error, people say that, people make mistakes. But not talking about it and giving it a pass is not acceptable.
No. That's
yeah,
not.
or having like an Instagram post, you know, maybe crafted by your publicity. I think he should be calling up
Interview.
Keurig,
should-
or exactly. He should do like a major on-camera
Yep.
interview, 60 minutes or
Yep.
something,
Yes,
and
something should be there.
right, and just talk about the journey and the process, even if it's hard, you
Yep.
know, and even maybe apologize that even this thing took away, like we said, all those great, amazing artists who have been working for
Exactly.
20 years to see their work, you know, recognized by their peers, and then it's not, you know,
Yep.
it's kind of sad. And I was so excited because it was the first in-person Oscars and everybody looked amazing and it was such a great, and it was funny. And I loved all the other comedians. I thought, you know, oh my God, they were so funny. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys like them, but I thought they were hilarious. Even when they were being irreverent, I just thought they were funny. You know, but Amy Schumer especially was fabulous. But I think it's a lesson, you know, power can be a double-edged sword, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think you just have to check in on your ego and you know, always be grateful and humble. Otherwise, you know, you do feel like, you know, you have you know, things that you can get away with, but you can't. And I think that everybody should, you know, recognize that they have hot buttons and then learn how to manage them, you know, meditate, you know, work on things in regards to your happiness, because it's an inside job. Nobody's
Very
gonna
true.
nobody's gonna help you with it. You got to do it yourself.
Very
And
true.
and so
Yeah, they have
And
to
as
take.
a leader, people are, it is said that in leadership, you can show your vulnerability, right? Things happen with leaders also. And there are moments when they are not able to represent the way they have always shown themselves. So moment has come for him and it has already happened. So now it's a big responsibility for him. He is a true leader. So he has to show that leadership quality, that was a vulnerable moment and how he has moved on and how he's improved. So for me, that's more important, how he's showing that it shouldn't be done and I will be careful. And I don't think so it's coming. So something should be there coming from him, some talk, some written material. I don't know.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because I think for everybody who is at the Oscars that this stole the show, I think the Oscars should actually do another Oscars, like 2.0, right? Because without Will, and just celebrate, because those moments are gone for those people. So there has to be some kind of something. But for Will, though, I mean, for him to do that, it shows very extreme unhappiness, right? Like it's somebody who's hiding behind so much. And so the only thing he can do now is to be truly authentic, like be very real, because he can actually turn this around by being real and showing the world that, you know, unhappiness exists, and it's not good to hide behind pride, because that's ego, right? He's so proud that he's trying to hold this facade, but it's almost like everybody sees the truth. So the best thing he could do is come out and speak about authenticity, about being real, about not being ashamed to be human, and to speak to the public, the everyday people like us, that, you know, we're struggling. A lot of people are struggling with unhappiness, and we don't know what to do. And then we see these movie stars are getting their Oscars and they don't look like they're unhappy until we see it. So he needs to stand up for authenticity now, right?
Very strong point. Very strong point.
Love that. Love that. Yes, I think so. And I think it's also shining a light on PTSD, you know, of this past couple of years, because I think that's the thing that people do not know is the aftermath of this COVID, is that so many people are suffering from mental health issues. You know, probably they were cooked up in quarantine for like, you know, a year and a half, and God knows what came out into the surface between that marriage. You know, so many people filed for divorce during COVID.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So I
Yep.
think there is also something to be said that, you know, there is this thing that people talk about not enough, I think, and that's like the mental health post this, 2 years of insanity, you know, and that's just a, you know, perfect demonstration of it all. Would this have happened had we not had this 2 years of insanity? Maybe not. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, no, it's done an inside job to a lot of people, actually, this whole COVID thing. And I think the world is feeling it all over the place. Been bottled up.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with Alexia. So many topics have surfaced up. So we have spoken about so many topics which were covered till now, undercover, and suddenly he's there slapping the guy. And now we think there can be so many reasons, and this has to be addressed. And media can play a big role in this. And I loved Suzanne's share about authenticity. That's the powerful word which everybody should understand. And let's hope something comes from Will Smith soon so that he can really justify and he can move on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because while you're being real, you can help so many. And that's the only way you can redeem from a horrible moment of vulnerability.
Seriously.
No, but he can give a lesson to everybody, right? That, you know,
Yes.
violence is not acceptable anytime,
Not
anywhere,
acceptable.
right?
Very true.
And he could really do a great messaging to the world.
But he has to speak about it. Definitely has to speak
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I think anybody would be able to be violent like that if you bottle it up enough pain.
Yeah.
Right, because that's what triggers us, and when we feel like we're cornered or something, we will react like the rat if you corner a rat. So I think everybody has that ability to be violent if we allow ourselves to be held at a noose, our life, our soul, and everything. So the key is to live freely and be real and have very good friends and just make decisions that enable your happiness. That's all.
Play.
I agree.
Pray every
Definitely.
day.
Very true.
Pray. Pray. Mary's solution, just keep praying.
You dropped all those wisdom. Like, I don't even need to say anything, even though I started the subject matter, because you ladies are like really nailed it on the head, all three of you. You know, Sharo, you were saying be more outspoken, you know, about, you know, say something, don't just vanish, you know, because you need to hide under the rock. You know, Susan, you talked about the importance of being authentic and shining the light on potentially bigger issues and what we just see. That was just like a moment of something that had been long brewing. You know, Mary, you talked about how people can be very, very sensitive to jokes and the fine line between, you know, making fun of something in a night of celebration or just pushing the buttons into somebody's pain or insecurity or issue. So I think all those are incredible points. And I would like to say that, you know, I think the saddest of it all is that we are in the midst of a war. There is a lot of people suffering. And again, perhaps he could turn this around and he could do something to help Ukraine and all those, you know, displaced people. That might be a good way for him potentially to use the power, because again, in Europe, people were making fun of us talking about all this, because it's like, wait a minute, there's people who are like being bombed out of their houses and are crossing a border with no food and nothing, with their little pets. You know, it's like, oh my God, me and the pets, you know, me, I've seen them crossing the border with nothing. And then we're talking about, oh, somebody didn't slapped and, you know, whatever. So there's definitely a perspective there as well that I think we need to bring. And maybe these people could do something. Maybe for that, because I don't think they spoke enough about the war, and that's something that also
We have given them lots of options
yeah,
to repair the situation. So they should be
they
following
should
something.
hire us. We're
They
like
should hire
perfect.
us.
We're perfect. Like, hey, Will, are you listening? Damage control team of Global Women Talk. We'll tell you how to do it right.
But we could be the PR for him, seriously, because we stand on behalf of
We
everybody.
should be like the woman of
Right.
Scandal. What's her name? Carrie Rush. You know that she had this agency where she was basically solving all like the stuff that happened in politics. We should be those. We should be like our own little agency.
Yeah, we're the least political people here, okay? But yet we could talk about politics in the most human way.
It's gonna be called Hera Reputation Management Agency.
Oh my God, that is a great business idea.
You have opportunity to add some things.
Yeah.
You heard it here, people. We just created a new company because we all have like 10 each, so we might as well just have an extra one.
Add one more.
One more.
It's okay. I could scale. I created a foundation scale. We can scale to Hera Relationship Management Consultancy Company.
Love that. I love that. Well, it was such a great conversation. I mean, Mary, I'll leave it up to you to say goodbye or close up. I mean, it seems like we all said our final words. So
We did. You know what? I always have a great time with you ladies. I love our subjects. I love our conversations. And if I was 18 years old, I'd like to be listening to this conversation whenever you guys have it. So anyway, thank you again for Global Woman Talk and our subject today. So until the next time, we love you and we're grateful that you're watching us. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.